Nobody thought the show would do anything. The trailer on YouTube did 1 million views, and then the show was a monster hit. And someone said they were watching it, and they said, "Oh, they're not going to drop a baby from a cliff. You can't drop a baby from a cliff." Oh, they dropped a baby from a cliff. But listen, Greek mythology, ancient Greek culture, it was brutal. We're not doing it for shock value. We're doing it because what we said is that let's keep all the archetypes and tropes, everything that's in this amazing milieu, in this sandbox, let's stay true to it. And we always say, this is not our show, this is Greece's show. We stand on the shoulders of our ancestors in the world of Greek mythology, which has fascinated us since we were little kids.
Hello and welcome to CultureScape, the show that interviews the geek creators and influencers that built nerd culture. I'm your host, Pete Pishke, and today I have with me the writing duo of Charlie and Vlas Parlapanides, who happen to be the creators of the Netflix hit animated show Blood of Zeus, which is just about to release with season 3. So today we will discuss Blood of Zeus, how the show came together, what's it like working at Netflix, and what might viewers expect in season 3. Welcome to the show, Charlie and Vlas.
Wow, that was an impressive introduction. Very well done, Pete. How long did it take you to say Parlapanides? Just beyond.
I was practicing a lot during show prep. I wanted to really get it down.
You nailed it. First try. Good.
Thank you.
Wow.
Well, I have an unusual name that also starts with P, so I know how hard that can be. Yeah.
It's like we say Parlapanides almost rhymes with Wheaties, but not really. And that sometimes helps people. But that was great. No, that was really impressive.
Nice. Yeah. It's cool to have you here. I really enjoy Blood of Zeus. It reminds me of being back in high school and you're learning about Greek and Roman myths. And I saw the anime show during the start of COVID and fell in love with it. It's just very well put together, very enjoyable, very smart, very well animated. So you guys being willing to be here is such a treat for me. So thank you for that.
Thank you for having us. And we always love meeting fans, and what you're saying is genuine, and that makes us feel really good. And we made it for the fans, to take people on a journey, have them forget about their problems for a little while and hopefully entertain them and move them emotionally. So thank you for sharing that.
And we love what you do, that you promote the popular arts, that you share your passion for different stories and different fandoms and different shows. I mean, stories are what shape our culture. I know it, obviously, there are far more laudable and important, professions and interests in the world, but stories are important. And so we're glad you enjoyed the show. And we always say, this is not our show, this is Greece's show. We stand on the shoulders of our ancestors in the world of Greek mythology, which has fascinated us since we were little kids. And we do think we're very fortunate. The idea of taking Greek mythology stories and using it in this animated world is just kind of like peanut butter and jelly. It was a great combination. Sometimes it's hard to do with CGI, but we feel like when you're animating it, it all just kind of flows together and feels real, and the world feels even more lived in, Peter. That makes sense, hopefully.
And we're nerds, so there's that too.
That's right. That's what CultureScape is all about. Home of the nerds.
That's right. Oh, I love that. Love that.
All right. Well, tell us a little bit about each other, and how did you find yourself with a working relationship with Netflix?
We were very lucky. Netflix has just always been good to us. They've expanded rapidly. And to be honest, it just goes to show you, Peter, you just never know what's best in life. And we use this line in the show: you often meet your fate on the road you took to avoid it.
Charlie wrote that.
We've always loved animation, but have been more just consumers of it. We've been primarily working in features and had done a little bit of network TV development. And we just had a general meeting at Netflix. And there's something we always say, and it's probably, if you've ever seen any of our interviews, it's it's a constant refrain that, like, our show would not exist without the success of Castlevania. That was like the first kind of test that Netflix did. And would people watch adult-oriented and adult-themed animation? And that show did really well. What ended up happening is that after that, they tried to negotiate the rights to a bunch of other video games, and it took then the guy we met with, John Derderian, who bought our show, he heads the department, and he was having a really hard time closing on the rights. He goes like, some of these deals, it's been over a year and we still haven't closed the rights. He said, do you have any ideas for anything in public domain that would be a cool adult animated show? And at that time, we weren't going in there thinking to pitch an animated show. We were just going in for a general meeting. We knew John. And long story short, we had this idea for this kind of retelling of Hercules, but making it an original story. And instead of the two brothers being allies, them being adversaries. And so it was just sheer luck off of a general meeting. We mentioned the idea to him. He said, oh, that's cool. We kind of expressed how a lot of, modern superheroes, it's all from Greek mythology. They're just, instead of, togas, they put on tights. And here we are. And so it was just pure happenstance. And we were just very, very fortunate because we've loved working in animation.
We really have. It's probably been the most rewarding experience we've had creatively and professionally. And just to piggyback off of what Charlie said, we had went out for at least 5 jobs before that on, in the live action space. And we came up number 2 on all of them. And it was hard, because we put a lot of time into those takes. We worked very hard. We had very good takes, and we got very, very close. And we were really just bummed out. We were really bummed out at that time that we didn't land those jobs. And a lot of those jobs we were perfectly suited to write those jobs. And in many ways, it was probably one of the best things that happened to us because we really focused in on, once we saw there was interest from Netflix for this animated show, it was a show that we always were very passionate about. We pursued it fully, and landing that job saved us during the pandemic. All of our other writing friends who were writing in the live action space suddenly
There's no work.
weren't working. And the fact that it was an animated show, we were able to continue to work
Remotely the whole time through.
And so that was just we always say a prayer answered, or one of our mother's prayers that was answered. And then it being something that we really enjoyed, again, creatively, was just kind of the cherry on top, because it was the first time we were able to take something from inception of idea and see it through all the way to completion. And we were able to tell the story that we wanted to tell. For better, for worse, we were able to do that. As a screenwriter, you're not normally afforded that. Normally in features, the director's king, and you write the script, and then oftentimes you get rewritten, and then you're always at the service of the director. In television, the writer is king. We had developed shows that got really, really close to getting pilots made, but with regards to the actual physical production of a show, we didn't quite get there, and we did get there with Blood of Zeus, and it was an extraordinary experience.
And Peter, just to give your audience some context, because maybe some of this is a little inside baseball, what Vlas was talking about for the features, there were OWAs, which are open writing assignments. And there's a couple different ways as a writer you can make a living. Now, especially in features, it's purely a gig economy. You can either do what's called writing something on spec, which means speculative, which means no one is paying you. You just sit down and write the script, and you hope that when you're done, someone will be willing to buy it. A lot of feature writers do that. Another way you can get work are what are called open writing assignments, and that's when a studio options a book or gets the rights to a certain IP. And then the way writers audition is that, okay, Warner Brothers has gotten the rights to Harry Potter. And basically they reach out to all the major agencies and they say, who do you have that might be right for it? Or these are people we've worked with in the past that we like. Have them read the book, come up with a take, and then you go in and you pitch how you would adapt it.
They never asked us, though.
Yeah,
They never asked us for that one.
True story. We've heard they were remaking Clash of the Titans early in our career. The first script we ever sold in 2006 was a heist script. And we heard they were remaking Clash of the Titans, and we loved Clash of the Titans. The original Harry Hamlin, Harryhausen, 1981 Clash of the Titans, we loved growing up. And we said, hey, we would love to be considered for that job, but we weren't approved. But we're like, what do you mean we're not approved? We're Greek. We know tons about Greek mythology. We love the original. Well, they said the sample that you have now, it's a heist script. There's no world building, and in fact, that's the reason we wrote the script that eventually became Immortals. But what
Well,
was
to show people that we could build out a world. We could actually be the guys that would be right or correct to write, Clash of the Titans.
something fantastical. It all was because of that, experience. And so we were up for a bunch of open writing assignments where we went in and pitched. And, first you pitch the producer, then you pitch the studio. If there's an actor involved, you have to pitch them. And then, like, the best 4 or 5 takes, they would then take into the studio. Then the studio says, okay, this one or that one. And on all of those, we kept coming in second place or third place. And it was just like, we would be very close.
Second place,
Second,
all 5.
yeah. And it was,
But in Hollywood, you don't get a medal for second place.
it's like the saying goes, close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. And
Yep.
being close on an OWA means nothing. It means all the time. And again, we don't get a paycheck every 2 weeks. This isn't like a regular job. You only get paid when you sell something, when you book something. And so it was frustrating because we were putting lots of time into these open writing assignments and nothing was coming to fruition. So when Netflix mentioned, oh, that's interesting, they're like, can you give us a little more on it? We wrote up some pages and they said, oh, this is really cool. And they said, basically, John told us, if you write the first episode, the pilot, which in animation is 22 pages, if you write that first script and like 10 pages explaining what happens in the first season, if I like it, not only will I buy it, but I'll make it. And we just said, we gotta just carve out the time and try and do that. Like, this is too good of an opportunity. And John, to his word, he loved the pilot and he said, we'd love to make this. And we were off and running from there.
One of the things I really love about Blood of Zeus is the way that you approach mythology. A lot of shows, when they want to adapt these classic myths, that these ancient cultures have, they kind of want to Hollywoodize it. They kind of want to soften it, but you don't have that so much in Blood of Zeus. It's like, no, Kronos ate Zeus and all his siblings. This actually happened, and that was the moment. I was like, oh wow, this is really cool, because they're like, they really want to go full steam with what the classic Greek myths are. I find that approach that you have in this show throughout the seasons so fascinating. It really feels like this show is a love letter to your Greek origins.
Very much so, very much. And you know what's great, Peter, that you kind of caught? I remember someone else said this to us. There's a scene in, I think it's in episode 102 or 104, where we're getting Seraphine's backstory. And someone said they were watching it, this one critic, and they said, oh, they're not going to drop a baby from a cliff. You can't drop a baby from a cliff. Oh, they dropped a baby from a cliff. But listen, Greek mythology, ancient Greek culture, it was brutal. It was brutal.
Yeah.
And we're not doing it for shock value. We're doing it because what we said is that let's keep all the archetypes and tropes, everything that's in this amazing milieu, in this sandbox, let's stay true to it. And then part of it, sometimes, like, I honestly believe, Peter, this is just my opinion, and who are we? We're nobody. But that you could go back, like some people have said, there's kind of maybe superhero fatigue. I think you could do fantastical stories. That's why I can't wait to see what Nolan does with the Odyssey. I think you could remake a lot of those stories on a reasonable budget, and they would work, and they would work as the stories existed. But whenever you pitch that in Hollywood, they feel it's like tired, maybe because they read these stories in high school and college and they feel like they've already seen that. So they're always asking, like, well, what's the new spin on it? Or what's the new way? Or can we see it from someone else's point of view? And so the way we kind of got around that is we said, like, listen, what if it's this? It's an oral tradition. Greek mythology was never written down. It's not like the Bible and the ecumenical council where a bunch of people get together and they decide this is the one version. There's lots of versions. You can read one version where, Theseus is the son of Poseidon, and you read another version and he's the son of Zeus. And then in one version, this happens, and in one version, this happens. So we say, because it's an oral tradition, this is a lost tale from Greek mythology. And it's about this guy, Heron. It just means hero. That's all Heron means in Greek, just hero. And we're going to tell a new story, but we're going to know all these characters. Everything that's happened in mythology has already happened in the backstory of our show, and this is a new story. And John sparked to that, thankfully. but that was kind of the window dressing we had to put on it to sell it. Because in the end, people too sometimes are like, well, what do you want to write next? There's a lot of things we want to write. It's the question is, what do the buyers want to buy and what do they want to make?
I love that you love Greek mythology, and it's cool and it's evident. And so I think another part of the show that appeals to people is this part, like if they are familiar with Greek mythology, you see the little tips of the hat,
Yeah.
and you get to appreciate it more. And if you're not familiar with Greek mythology, the story still works.
Yeah. And it makes a great introduction to help spark interest in those stories, for sure. One of the things, the release schedule for the show is a little weird because it came out swinging in 2020, did awesome. Season 2 doesn't show up till last year, 2024. What was? Do you mind sharing a little bit? What was going on? Was it just because it was COVID, and so that was making it harder to get production out, or what was going on
It
there
was
with the release schedule?
it was an amalgamation of things, and Charlie can delve into those things further, but it really, really hurt us, like, personally, because we had the scripts ready to go. We written them very quickly, so there was no reason why it should have taken that long. We literally should have had season 2 18 months, 2 years later, at the latest. And, it was painful for it to take so long because you know, it's audiences have so much to choose from, and we had such a big hit that first season
Yeah.
and such a hunger for more. And I feel looking back on it now, you really have to keep the momentum going. You have to capitalize, or, strike while the iron's hot and not wait too much longer. And there's a plethora of reasons as to why it took so long. And that was incredibly frustrating. I don't know if you want to delve into some of the specifics.
Well, a little bit of what happened is that, no one expected the show to do as well as it did. And that's why
Interesting.
we wrote the show where we wanted it to feel like it could work as a standalone story, just that first season, but then also leave a thread that if it did work, we could pull at that thread to continue on. And that's why we have that final scene with Seraphim and Hades at the end of season 1. So we said, listen, if this comes out and it doesn't do well, at least it feels like a complete story. And Heron has saved the day. And great, there it is. But we do have this whole other story about Hades and Seraphim. And then it was supposed to be about Hades and Persephone, and then also Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades, and all this other place where the story can go. Long story short, though, we wrapped up. What happens with a season of animated TV with Netflix is that once you deliver the show to them, they need about 3 months to then dub it into the 30 plus languages that they do, which is pretty amazing. When you sometimes, like, I'll watch the episode sometimes in Greek and I love it. It makes me smile. Especially because we had to translate. When our grandmother lived with us, we used to have to watch Little House on the Prairie and translate it to her because she didn't speak a word of it in English. So what happened was we wrapped the show. We came out in October. I think we delivered the show like in July. And then basically everybody on the production team was let go. And they all went and got new jobs. And then the show didn't come out. Maybe even we finished before July.
Oh,
but
before July.
it was before July.
Oh, yeah.
So say we finished in June, everyone was let go. Nobody thought the show would do anything. And then what happened was in the first 3 days, the trailer on YouTube did 1 million views. And then by a week, it did 2 million. And they told us if you do 1 million views from when the trailers dropped until the release date, that's a really good sign. That means people will watch. And I think by the time the show came out, we had 4 million views. And then the show was a monster hit. The only show that has ever done better than our season 1 is Arcane. Every other animated show, our numbers blew them out of the water.
Oh, wow.
But what happened was everyone had moved on to other jobs. They pretty quickly, within the first 10 days, they said, okay, we want more of this. But what we said is that we need to get some of our crew back. And so we were trying to negotiate. Everyone had moved on to other jobs. And so we spent a lot of time trying to get other people back. Like our season 1 director, Sean Nagosian, had gone to DreamWorks and was now directing Kung Fu Panda
With Jack.
with Jack Black, the Dragon Knight series. And every time we made an offer to try and bring him back, DreamWorks kept throwing even more at him. And Voss and I were done with the first 4 scripts. So the show came out end of October 2020. By March 2001, the first 4 scripts were done. And if we had had the whole team still, you could roll right into pre-production then, and then the show would have been out in a year and a half. But we couldn't get everyone back. And then by June, trying to get everyone back, they just said, we can't do this, and let's just build a new team. But then it took forever because everyone at that point, the only shows getting made at that time were animation. Because animation, you can work remotely, you can do the whole thing. We can write the scripts. The animators work from home on their iPads. People were now audio recording from home. Everyone had built studios. Like our line producer from Blood of Zeus, he got approached by AMC. They said, hey, we have this TV show we were going to film live action, and we have 10 50-page scripts. Can you animate this in 9 months? We'll just put it out animated. He's like, I can't do it that fast. But so everyone was doing animation during COVID because it was the only show in town. And we literally couldn't get a crew together. It took us from June, where we basically said, okay, we're not going to get Shant back. It took us another 10 months just to get a team together to then get to work. So we could have started production a year and a half earlier. So instead of it taking 3.5 years for it to come out, we really should have been out in 2 years. Or if we had kept the team together, we could have done like 18 months. But that just threw a wrench into everything. And then, that was the start of why it took so long. But then once we had the team together for season 2, it's like, let's keep them together. And now that's why we have season 3 coming out, a year after season 2. And it's actually changed the way Netflix is producing their shows now. They're like, we're never going to let what happened to Blood of Zeus happen to another show, because you do lose a certain momentum when you allow that much time to go between seasons.
So now they buy 2 seasons up front. So you're working on both of them you're working on, so there isn't that long gap between seasons 1 and season 2.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad they learned from it, but sucks to be the test case.
Peter, that's exactly right.
That's so true. It's absolutely true, because then we're always thinking of, well, what could have been.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
Yeah. Fred I'm sure I'm gonna get his name wrong. Fred Tatasciore. Do I have that close
Fred
enough?
Tatasciore.
Great guy.
Yeah. Hades. Season 2, Hades is amazing. That whole plot line with him, his interest in his wife, and that situation. I had pretty much flipped in season 2 to kind of liking, like, that was almost my protag at that point. I was like, well, whatever happens to the main crew, I mean, maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't. I was just hoping Hades was going to win in the end.
Yeah, that's great. We love shows where you're watching a show and then you're surprised by who you're rooting for and why you're rooting for that person. And so it's nice to hear you say that. And Hades, we always felt, was misrepresented, in animated movies and even live action movies. And we felt so much more to his story. There was so much more to the character. So we wanted to explore that and really kind of, tell his side of the story.
And also, too, if you go back and you look at the people that started DC, they said that Hades was the inspiration for Batman. And if you really look, so they say that Superman was Zeus, because Zeus was always considered the most powerful god. That's Superman. He has all the powers. Aquaman is Poseidon. And then Hades is Batman. Those were their original 3. They just took them from Greek mythology. And we always loved Batman. And so for us, Hades is like a cool character. You know what I mean? Like, he's the most fair. Death is death. There's no one, there's no avoiding it. It's just part of the system. And Fred is amazing. Fred, if people really watch animation, because he does the voice of the Hulk, he has literally like 1,000 credits. He's one of the most talented human beings on the planet. And he's so good as Hades. And we're glad you like that storyline, because we just love that. And we're very proud of Fred and the work he did in the character.
And he never had the opportunity to play a character that had, the depth that this one had. And he brought the emotional truth to it. He's a true artist and a true actor who has craft. And he brought, that craft and that skill set and that talent to the role. So we feel, as Charlie mentioned, we're very grateful that he did it and he did it, so well. And also, by the way, Hermes is the Flash and Wonder Woman is Athena. Yeah.
No, it's an excellent voice cast through and through. Part of the plan originally, this is what people I've read, is that you were going to do 5 seasons. You're going to stretch the storyline over 5 seasons. It looks like currently you're going to get at least 4. I've heard whispers, maybe a spinoff in the future with like Artemis or something. Did trying to fit what you might have done over 5 seasons, now you're just putting it to 3. Did that impact the way that you wrote season 3 and how we're going to see this season be laid out?
We're very lucky that we were able to wrap things up in a really cool, beautiful way, in a way that feels earned and that is organic. So we're very fortunate, that we were able to do that. We would have loved to have had 2 more seasons. The original plan was to do 5 seasons. And in that iteration, we would just spent more time with characters that we love. We would have spent more time with the arc of the characters, Seraphim's arc, Heron's arc, the arc between the 2 brothers, seeing them go from it being very adversarial then to, a place where we were hoping that we would reach a place where they would, give their lives for each other. So, we're not gonna get to see that, but we also
And we also had a big storyline too for Zeus, Hades, and Poseidon. That was the kind of the two tiers, and then this final kind of Armageddon story. There's no Armageddon story in Greek mythology. There's no kind of end times, and so the idea would have been to see the Titans in season 4, and then the end times in season 5, and it kind of explained where the gods went and what happened to them. We're not going to get to that, but we love the 3 seasons we have. What we're proud of is we think all 3 seasons are super strong. They're, the Rotten Tomato critics that have seen season 3, they've all told us how much they love season 3 and how much they love the ending. Elias Tufexis, who voices Seraphim, he tells us that season 3 is his favorite season. So we're proud that the 3 seasons we have, it really works. We also love that part of Greek mythology, like they use these stories to help understand the world. And the ending of our show, it's like, this is why this is a Greek myth, and this is why we believe certain things, and that's what we do. And we feel that's like a nice way to kind of wrap up the story. So, would we have loved to have had more seasons? Yes. But in the end, we were glad that we were told, okay, no, end here so we can give the show a proper ending. And we love how it all stands as almost like a trilogy is how we look at it.
And Charlie's mentioned before, the beauty of having these 3 seasons is that as a viewer, as a fan, you could sit down and you can watch season 1, then you can, that spills right into season 2, and season 2 spills right into season 3. And it's a very satisfying story, one big story. It's a trilogy where you have a beginning, middle, and an end. And it's I think something that people are really going to enjoy. And if they have the time and they can watch 1 season, 2nd season, 3rd season, and they can really enjoy it. And there's something gratifying about being able to share that with people.
Okay, last question. Can you give me a little bit of a spoiler? Is Hades gonna get out of there? Is he gonna get his freedom? He and his wife gonna retire on some nice tropical island or something?
Listen, Peter, I see the picture behind you, someone who served in the military. And, there was one idea that we really wanted to imbue in season 3. This is from With the Old Breed, which is a recounting of the Marines on Guadalcanal. And they talked about how you hear war stories and there's a little bit of survivor bias. We're going to have all out war in season 3. You're going to see the Titans and Kronos and Typhon. And we didn't want to be one of these shows or movies where they say it's like the end of the world, but nobody dies and there's no loss. Like when evil has to be confronted, there is sacrifice. So people die, Now, we hope that people will understand that, like, we wanted to show that there's consequences to all-out war. And then the people that we did have die, we feel at the end how we explain it works. So, just be prepared that lots of characters are gonna meet their demise. Some characters are gonna be heroic, some characters are gonna be redeemed. We like where Hades ends up. We think that's cool. And again, this is meant to be like a myth where, the ancient Greeks used myths to understand the world around them. And that's what we try and do with the ending of this show. So I don't know if that, don't want to get into spoilers and we dodged your question,
But also I would add to that, there was a Rotten Tomato critic, and he
Yeah.
really liked,
he actually,
where Hades ended up. So I want to give you a little hope. He felt that he had a redemptive arc in season 3. So I just wanted to share that with you, being a Hades fan.
Okay, thank you. That relieved my stress. Appreciate that. All right. Well, hey, this has been so much fun. Thank you to the both for taking the time to do that. Final words, if you have any.
The one thing I would say is that if you like shows like Blood of Zeus, again, our show only exists because of Castlevania. If you want to continue to see adult-oriented shows, watch them. That will drive what the streamers do. If, Devil May Cry, Arcane, Legend of Vox Machina, Invincible, X-Men 97. How awesome was that? I love that show. Like, it's important that if you do like these types of shows, that you watch them, tell people about them, because that's the only way they'll keep getting made. The bar keeps going higher and higher for the numbers they want these shows to hit. And so, we just ask that if you liked our show, tell people about it. If there's other shows in this kind of genre that you like, please tell other people about them, because we hope that this wave of adult-oriented animated shows will keep growing.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I would also add that we want to thank the fans,
Yeah.
for their support, and we're definitely asking them to check out season 3, and also too, to check out Heavy Metal.
Yeah.
We have
Heavy Metal Magazine, the
yeah,
Yeah.
the magazine. Obviously, it's kind of pretty renowned. We're going to have a comic in there called Ink for the 2nd edition that comes out in July. And we're, excuse me, part of a team for Gladiatrix, which is in this first episode, written brilliantly by John Stanisi, who is a very, very talented artist. He and Dan Gordon, who was nominated for an Academy Award, wrote and conceived the story for Gladiatrix. So check it out.
John's an amazing artist. For Marvel, he's drawn Batman and Daredevil,
And a great guy.
and a great guy. And so, yeah,
So buy Heavy Metal Magazine.
it came out yesterday.
Check out Gladiatrix, and then look for Ink in the 2nd edition.
We think Ink could be an awesome animated show. It'd be an awesome animated show.
Yeah.
But it's an original idea, and that's always tougher. So that's why we're starting it off as a comic, or in the comic format, and kind of go from there.
And we do have a Medusa project, but we have to keep that under wraps for now. We're hoping to, try to push that forward and solicit it and bring it into fruition.
Okay. Well, you guys obviously have a lot going on. We'll close it here. Be sure to check all those out. And of course, Blood of Zeus, which releases with season 3 here on May 8th. And thank you so much to all of you for taking the time to watch this show. Thank you, Charlie and Vlad. I really enjoyed this conversation. And until next time, my friends, keep geeking out. Hey there, gang. If you are a fan of CultureScape, and I know you are, and want to get involved in supporting the show, well, now you can. By joining the CultureScape Patreon, you'll help support me and my editor, Chris, as we create the show and produce more quality journalism. For just $5 or $10 a month, you not only help us, but get access to our exclusive members-only Discord. You'll also get to vote on and suggest new guests for the interview. So if you are a fellow weeb and love CultureScape, then come join us today on Patreon.